Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, depending on what part of the world where you are, everybody. And thank you for joining our global workshop today for Osiri University. So today is going to take a kind of a very different trajectory from what we've been used to from the previous ones. And we just want to bring on board and showcase what we have been doing as a university to bring on board Mrs. Chioma Bedford Fubara and Mr. Chika Nwankwo. They are both Malamais at the Osiri University, and they have both gone through a process where all instructors within the university put in some courses. Their courses came up top from the list of them. So we just want to get more insight as to why this is the case, and that's why we've actually brought them on board today. So I hope we all would enjoy this sort of conversation that we'll be having today. So myself, the AZY of Practical Knowledge and Innovation for Osiri University, and Dr. Paul Isling, who is the Oga of Humanities, will be co-chairing the session today. So you're welcome, everybody. So as before, please, if you have any questions or something you would want to share, please do use the chat or you let us know, and then we can bring you in to ask any questions if you have any. So you're all welcome today. Just to ask a little bit of information from the two guests that we have on today's global workshop. So the first person is Mrs. Chioma. We just want to ask you a couple of questions. So I'll start with you. They always say ladies first. Okay. So congratulations to both of you on your winner. Your course came up top in the course design awards and cash prizes. So how do you feel when you heard you got this, you won this? How did you feel, Mrs. Chioma? I'll start with you first.
Okay. Wow. Becoming the second place winner for the Course Design Award has been mind-blowing. I still haven't gotten over the excitement. I remember on the day, during our workshop meeting, Janisha was speaking. So I had to look away from the computer for a brief second because my son just came into the room to ask for something. When I looked back at the screen, I saw my picture there. I was wondering what my picture was doing there. So I waited for Janisha to mention my name. When she did, she mentioned me as second place winner. I was so ecstatic. I was jumping all over the room in excitement. I did not expect, because I mean, we have seasoned professionals in our midst, people that are experienced in their fields. They've been doing this lecturing thing for quite some time. So I was wondering, why would they pick me and not them? But one thing I did was I prayed before designing my course. I asked God for wisdom, and I think He answered me. So this has boosted my confidence. I have so much confidence in myself now, in God. It has taught me that whatever you do, whatever effort you put into, any venture you go into, it means a lot. It's not wasted. So I'm grateful for the win.
Fantastic, fantastic. And you'll be sharing more insights. So practically, what did you do? What were the steps you took when you were thinking about the course? So we'll ask you a couple of questions just to give us more insight. And I'm sure a lot of instructors and probably people who are kind of looking and seeing what Osiri University is all about would want to gain more insight as to how you went about this practically. So I would ask the same question to you, Mr. Chika. So tell us, how did you feel?
Thank you, Ezewanye. I'm very grateful. Dr. Paul Isling and my colleague, Chioma. Well, for me, I was very happy when I had my name. In fact, I was looking at the screen without knowing that the picture that was appearing there, is my picture until you announced it. I say, what? So I said, am I sure of what I'm hearing? So I have to so let me clean my eyes very well, the way we do to be sure, so that I will start rejoicing on another person's name. So frankly speaking, I was very happy because, when you've been involved in a particular profession, both as a professional in the field and an academician, and you have a lot of friends that keep telling you, this academic thing does not work, just forget it, it doesn't make sense, So I was very happy because looking at professionals involved, or the academicians, the professors, the doctors, of different backgrounds that were involved in this, let's say, assessment, and I was chosen as the best. I was very, very excited, and when my family heard it, they were also, jumping, and they were very, very happy. So I can't hide my excitement even up till now. So I'm very grateful to Osiri University.
Very well done. Thank you to both of you for what you have done. I'm sure a lot of hard work went into it. So thank you so much. So I just pass on to my colleague, and he will have some questions for you as well. Dr. Paul.
Good morning. Good morning. So when you were developing your classes, we'll start again, ladies first. When you were developing your classes, what did you consider? What was your thought process when you were developing your class?
Okay, when I was developing my course, I imagined the kind of students I was going to get. I envisaged they will come from different backgrounds, culture, different walks of life. Some of them would have a knowledge, some would not have, some would have limited access to the internet. So I tried to simplify each module as best as I could. One thing I made use of was note writing. I highlighted key topics in each module so that once they see it, they'll be able to know what the module is about. I also made use of resource materials that are easily accessible, videos, links, just things that they could get access to easily in a simplified way.
Good. All right. Mr. Chika, same question. What did you consider when your course was in development?
Okay. While developing the course, I considered what I've always seen as a personal challenge in development, and that is the gap between professionals in the field and academicians. The people like where I've studied most times before coming to Korea here to study an international development course. Like in our country, Nigeria, those in academics always believe they know it better. So they are on one lane. Those in the field are on another lane. So, but to me, there's always this gap. So how do we bring this image?
That's
Because I
critical.
believe that if the two can come together, we will come out with the best, maybe policy documents or solutions to, issues, especially as it relates to supply chain, because supply chain management is something that is very wide. It incorporates inventory, even transportation, somehow. So then apart from that, I also consider the background of how things are moved, let's say in Africa, maybe coming from Nigerian perspective. In recent time in news, I don't know if you always hear containers will fall out from trucks, fall on a smaller vehicle, and before you know it, people that left their house in the morning going to work, the next news you hear that this person is dead, container fell on the vehicle. So I consider this background. I say, now I came in with the concept of how do we impact knowledge and skills that can help our people, change their mentality and see how we can make our supply chain, to be right. So these are the things I considered.
Yeah, that's a critical point. The gap between theory and practice it seems like what the issue is. Learning and actually doing. That's a critical point.
So very critical point, because that's what kind of helps us as Osiri University to stand out. So considering the fact that we're not just developing courses for the sake of it, we're not just thinking about how do we, what sort of knowledge do we want to come up with for the sake of it, but basically how would this translate to day-to-day activity and, people utilizing this knowledge in order to transform the society. Now, this brings me to the next question that I want to ask. And again, I will start with you, Chioma. The question is around your learning objectives. So there might be some instructors and some people wanting to gain insight as to how did you come about your learning objective? So how did you structure it? How did you articulate it? Could you just shed some light on that, Chioma?
I based my learning objectives on measurable outcomes. I thought about what I wanted the students to gain or to leave the course with at the end of each module. What's the skills I wanted them to acquire. So I based it mostly on for them to use their reasoning skills to be able to analyze different business markets and customers, because database business management system has to do with implementing and creating databases for businesses, organizations. So I broke it down in a way that at the end of the course, they'll be able to analyze different business markets, develop skills that will help them form tables and forms that are required in creating a database. That was basically what I did.
So it was more practical in that sense.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Chika, would you want to shed more light on yours? How were you able to articulate your learning objectives, please?
Yes, my learning objectives, first of all, I looked at the background of the course I'm trying to develop from the practical point of view, from the experience, what we see in the field. Just like I mentioned, containers falling off vehicles. Then I looked at these problems. Then I asked myself certain questions. I don't know whether I'll call them professionals or the actors that are involved in these supply chain activities. Do they really plan before they start some of these things? So even when they plan, what kind of operation or activities do they think about? Because I can't imagine somebody using a vehicle that that is not roadworthy, trying to move a container from, let's say, Lagos to Aba, that is more than 500 kilometers. So I asked myself this question. I just put myself in their shoes. So assuming I am the one involved in this business, what kind of operations, what kind of vehicle will I use, what kind of planning would I be involved in? Then I also asked myself in question, do they ever think of performance improvements? Because we keep hearing the same thing every day. We keep hearing the same thing every day. Even when you go to the ports, let's say in Nigeria, for instance, you hear of a particular road, there's a gridlock for 1 week. Nobody is passing because trucks that came to pick up containers are blocking the road. So I looked at these things. Then from there, from those background and problems, I picked out the specific objectives I believe that we should, we should be able to, tackle in the course. So that's how.
Okay. Thank you. I like the fact that you laid a very good background. So you basically looked at the issues on ground as it has to do with the logistics area. So what exactly are the issues? And then you started to think how do you empower students in order for them to understand some of these issues and also how to navigate some of these challenges. So very practical sort of approach again. So very well done. Thank you, Mr. Chika.
Thank you, Doctor.
Mrs. Chioma, how did you begin to develop your assessment?
I identified or based my assessment on the objectives, on the learning objectives that were articulated, because from my own perspective or understanding, the objectives are connected to the problems or to the background. So I now connected the assessment to the objectives in such a way that if these objectives will be achieved, then the assessment should be asking the questions in such a way to know if the students understood what was taught. So the ability to do the assessment very well means that the objectives, would be achieved. So the assessment was based or was identified from the learning objectives.
So how did you identify your assessments and then start to develop your assessments for the course?
Okay, when developing my models, I made use of case studies, general business trends case studies, something the students will be able to relate with. I used the Ikoku spare parts dealership company in Port Harcourt here, because I know the students either own a car, have been in a car, or have been to a mechanic workshop, so they can relate with that. I also made use of a bank here in Nigeria, GT Bank, because they should be aware of banking operations. So with this, I was able to set my assignments for them. And this formed the basis for me to be able to see if they'll be able to meet up with the learning objectives, my objectives.
Good. That's a critical point that you both brought up, that you're connecting your assessments with your objectives and making sure that there's congruency between the two. Very important, very important.
Yeah. Very important. I mean, drawing from what you guys have said, a lot of thoughts have actually gone into your course design and your course development. And that's what we would want to see in Osiri University. That's what we stand for. Now, let me just back up a little bit and probably take on a more. So looking at the mode of delivery now, so the fact that you're going to be delivering your content online, what's appropriate instructional strategies do you think could be embedded in your delivery?
I began my module by introducing myself so that I will be able to create a comfortable ambience for the students. I came up with African proverbs, reflections, and provocative questions. I also sought their opinions on this so that we could set the tune for them to start talking, and then we'll start discussing, and then they become comfortable with the class. I also set clear expectations for the course, giving them a timeline for when assignments should be delivered, and also a time frame for just in case they need extra lessons or more clarification on the lesson that was taught. I also set a timeline which is within 1 business day for me to get back to them through my email. So I try to make the class comfortable, because to teach online is not the same as teaching in person. So I think that was the instructional strategy I used.
Okay. So you incorporated quite a lot of things. And basically what you're saying is that you taught through the fact that the students now, did you set the scene in terms of how you're supposed to be contacted, when you're supposed to be contacted? Because these are things students struggle with in an online environment. So how did you set the tone? Could you shed more light in terms of how you said you set the tone? So what did you do practically? So could you tell us?
At the end of every module, I give them a time frame, which is Friday, for them to submit all assignments. And then the feedback, I asked for feedback for each module. That's for those that need more clarification. To be able to get to me, my email was there for them to contact me just in case they needed extra clarification or explanations.
Fantastic, thank you. So Mr. Chika, could you shed more light?
Okay.
Same question.
Yes, what I did is, first of all, is to, in the model, to create an avenue to reintroduce myself again. Because students sometimes, you might introduce yourself, maybe last week, this week, somebody may even, may have forgotten your name. So reintroducing myself to set, let me call it a calm stage, so everybody, to the nerves to calm down, just to tell them, feel at home, we are all together in this, based on Osiri's university perspective. Then another thing I did is to bring in the proverbs, especially the Igbo proverbs, to bring in reflection on asking certain questions, like some of the background and the problems I identified, like asking students, how do you feel when you see, such a traffic road crashes, or when you see such incidents where a container is falling and killing people, Then I also brought in a case study, especially that of Ethiopian airline, to show them that there is still something good coming from the African soil. All these case studies, examples must not come from outside. I brought in this case study of Ethiopian airline. Then also another thing is, from our previous workshops, so that at least we are learning something from Osiri University, from SZ1 into, trying to practicalize the universal design for learning, bringing in engagement, strategies where multiple sources of information, sources of resources, representation, bringing it in, and also action and expression. And I did it in such a way that, for example, in a class, yes, I am the instructor, I'm teaching supply chain, but you may find out that in that class, you have maybe a seafarer that is in the class. Now, I have not had an experience of, let's say, piracy on the sea, which can disrupt supply chain, which can be a supply chain barrier. But having such a student in the class, I can allow such students to share the experience. So what happened? Do you think this can be a barrier to supply chain? So I believe that such students' experience, other people can learn from it. And even me, the instructor, can also learn from it to see how this, because disruption, let's say, a barrier to supply chain does not, happen only within town, traffic gridlock and all those things. It even happen out there in the sea, which I, the instructor, has not experienced. But I have maybe somebody in my class who has, experienced that. Then even, I may even give opportunity. Let's say I have somebody like a vehicle inspection officer in the class or a road safety officer in the class to also share their own experience. How do you think impounding a vehicle that is not roadworthy, how do you think it can affect supply chain? Because if you impound a vehicle that has, let's say, perishable goods, let's say carrots, you impound it, you take it to your office, you lock it up, what do you think will happen to such business? So through such instructional strategies, I believe students will learn better.
Wow. Thank you both for shedding more light. I like the fact that you actually have thought about incorporating variegated methods. So, and also engaging the students. So the students are also actively involved in their learning. So this is one way we encourage you, a lot of our tutors as well in their course design, to think about how the students take responsibility for their learning and also developing some soft skills along the line. So what you both have highlighted is you have created an enabling environment for that to actually thrive. So thank you so much for that, for sharing that.
In every course there are problems that always arise, stuff that or that stuff that happens that's unexpected. So how did you prepare, or how do you prepare for situational constraints for the delivering your course?
Okay.
How do you prepare for those things?
When teaching a course online, it's always good to expect the unexpected and become flexible. The key is to have a backup, because technology could fail, either from me, the instructor's end, or from the student's end. So it's always good to have a backup. My backup is in the form of a Microsoft Word version of my lesson and assignments, which I can send to the students' emails just in case my system doesn't come up or there is a hitch in their own device. So I always have a backup of my lesson that can be distributed to the students' emails.
Yeah, that's critical. That's critical. Good. Mr. Chica?
Okay, Doc. The constraints, situational constraints, like we know, most times can be external, just like my colleague Choma said. So in situations like that is to, like I normally tell my students, because of developmental issues, they always expect the best, but get ready for the worst, so that it will always make you to be prepared, So just like as we're in this meeting, you notice when Choma suddenly disappeared. So to me, I think there's situational constraints. So what do we do? So it always have strategies. So just like you mentioned, for me, if let's say I'm having a live class like this, I know Janisha is somewhere recording, and maybe I'll have somebody somewhere recording, so that if it fails, my students can have that. I can also have other documents like Microsoft Word, or I have it in PDF, Then on the student end, who knows? Maybe the day they want to submit their assessment, their internet may fail. So my email, I will also provide to them once it fails, but I will give them timeline. to show that you have done this assignment. So submit it from so time to, you know, my email. Then I will also encourage the class for us to have a WhatsApp, using social media like WhatsApp, so that, you know, in case there is system failure, somebody can easily communicate, you know, on WhatsApp. Then maybe if push comes to shove, maybe I'm sure Osiri University will also have, you know, some strategies that if it goes beyond us, they can also advise us. This is what you can do, you know, at this point. So I'll take it from my own angle as the instructor, from students' angle, and also from the angle of Osiri University. I believe this tripartite arrangement will always give us solution to, you know, situational constraints. That's my take.
Yeah, that's very critical because anything can happen, especially when you're teaching online. You know, anything can happen when you're teaching in person, but online it's a whole different monster, as they say. So you have to be prepared. Very good, very good.
Now, let's kind of take this conversation a bit further and looking at your course in itself. So how have you been able to ensure in designing your course? Would you say, or would you describe your course as, or having been decolonized? So there's a lot of curriculum, you know, when we talk about, you know, the courses in different universities, and one of the things in your, you know, Osiri University that we try to do is to make sure that the students within the university understand, it's more like contextualizing the course, okay? So what makes your course a decolonized course? So you might think differently. You might say it's not one. So tell us, is it one, and why do you think it is?
My course is decolonized, I believe so, because I tried to use, in all the case studies, examples, I focused more on the organization Ethiopia Airline. Because to me, when you come to the air transport industry, they've been really doing real good, especially in the African soil. You know, you can't imagine an organization founded in 1945 in Africa that is still in existence. It has about 125 aircraft, fleet size, you know, many countries have failed to achieve. So looking at especially just an aspect, the air cargo terminal that was built last year, established last year, where they beat their chests and told the world that this air cargo terminal will compete with air cargo terminals in Dubai, you know, laying out their strategies on how to make not just Africa, Ethiopia, a logistics hub in Africa, and which they are doing. They are gradually doing it. The size of this terminal is about 38,000 square meters. In this terminal, they do a lot of logistics activities, supply chain. They transport even fresh food, fresh flowers, fresh food. So I laid more emphasis on this so that to tell our African brothers and sisters that we can still have good news from Africa, you know, because there are many countries, even my country, Nigeria, is still struggling to have a national carrier, which they don't have. So if, for instance, Nigeria truthfully wants to learn about air transportation, I don't think there's any need traveling out of Africa. Ethiopia Airline is a good example to copy the model. Like I said, from 1945 till date, they are still waxing strong. Yes, may not be a perfect system. No system is perfect. But for me, they are doing, you know, pretty good, looking at their antecedents, looking at where they are going, looking at their plans, you know, because organizations like this make a country, you know, throw you on the map of the world. Now, when you look at some Africans in the past, people like Mansa Musa, people like King Jaja of Opopo. Mansa Musa, if you read his history, there's a particular time in his life that he went on an expedition with about 60,000 men to Mecca. He traveled from Mali to Mecca. You know, they moved with human resources, material resources. So how were they able to, you know, achieve these things? So these are examples that will be brought in this course. King Jaja of Opopo was involved in, even if it was not called supply chain then, but if you look at it now, it's a typical supply chain planning operations, you know. So these are strategies I used as a decolonization, to decolonize the course, to lay more emphasis on what Africans have done, what Africans are doing, because I believe we can still learn, you know, from ourselves.
Wow. Wow, wow, great. Thank you. I mean, it's fantastic because basically that is what Osiri University stands for. You know, we're on about decolonizing, which involves us having fundamental rethinking, reframing of the curriculum, basically. So how would this make sense to those, you know, that we are trying to, so how do we repurpose what we're doing? So thank you for sharing that. Thank you.
When you were developing your courses, how did you contextualize it for Africa? Meaning, how did you consider the different countries, the different locales? You know, how did you contextualize it for the continent? We start with Mr. Chika.
Okay, Doc. For me, contextualization, what I did was I still laid more emphasis on the case studies that I've used, like the Ethiopia Airline, Mansa Musa, King Jaja, you know, of Opopo. So what I did here basically was to, for example, using Ethiopia as an example, Ethiopia is a landlocked country. And you can see that the area of strength in air transportation. So in contextualization now, what I did was to take those strategies, customize, you know, for the participants or students. Let's say you're from a coastal country. So you take those strategies, you customize and localize it. Maybe the strength of that country is in water transport, maritime transport. But you can see there's a relationship. It's all about moving goods. It's all about having terminals. It's all about having ports. It's all about having storage, you know, facilities, which is also related to what my sister Joma is saying. Database management is very important, and that is what we, you know, we also lack in so many of our African countries. Data is a problem. You go to the ports, nobody knows the number of ships that bettered in a month. Nobody knows the number of containers that left. You know, you ask questions, you know, some people will start feeling maybe he came to probe us, you know, and also it sounds, you know, so funny. So in that conceptualization is to take strategy from, let's say, from this Ethiopia Airline, take to another location, find their area of strength, customize it, localize it, use it as a strategy to, you know, to develop. There are African countries where you have agricultural commodities that need to be exported, but because of, you know, a poor value chain system, it cannot move. So everything is stuck there. They consume, the rest perish. So this is what, let me say in a nutshell, I did in conceptualization. Take from here, take it here, customize, localize, and practicalize. Thank you.
Okay. The way I contextualize my course, when because database management evolved from the filing system. So I used the case study of a hospital in Kenya. When creating the file for the patients in Kenya, I used Kenyan names. Then when I transitioned it to like a database system file, I also used the Kenyan names, but I put them in an order that from the filing system to the database system, you'll be able to relate the two together. So I use the Kenyan names for my Kenyan case study, and when I had to do with another country, I think that was it Ghana? Yes, I used Ghanaian names for my case study. So I did not use English names or mix up Nigerian names for them.
That's good. It's important. That's important. Contextualizing in such a fashion.
So thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. Now we just want to open up the floor for further questions. So if anyone has got questions, please do ask.
Yes, we have 2 questions in the Q&A box, or 3.
Okay.
Well, 2. The first question
Okay.
is, yep, you could go ahead.
All right. I think one person is asking, with data management, how will the content or the curriculum help with advancement of local, I think it's financial technology or fintech, agriculture technology, health technology, clean tech, and education technology solutions? So I think that question is for you, Chioma.
Database management system helps to enhance problem-solving skills for businesses and organizations. So for each of these sectors, when they have a proper database of their staff, of the employees, their products, and all what they offer, when they have a proper database of it, it helps to reduce the process of data redundancy. You don't have, before you, like, let's say you want to take inventory of your stock or know what products you have in an agricultural firm, like let's say you produce cocoa and you need to export it, but you don't have enough stock at that point in time. With a proper database, you're able to detect that you're lacking in cocoa supply, and that helps you to be able to bridge that shortcoming. You're able to plan ahead so that you don't have some loopholes in your business. It applies to other sectors too, like the health sector and the rest.
Great. Thank you so much for shedding light on that. Have we got any more questions, Janisha? I can't see the Q&A.
Yes. The other question is, with supply chain, how can Africa, especially with the takeoff of the AFCFTA, how can we use technologies such as blockchain and Industrial 4.0 to leapfrog?
Well, for leapfrogging in a supply chain, let's say in Africa, is for us to, first of all, recognize the importance of infrastructure, especially the soft infrastructure, just like Choma is talking about database. And I mentioned earlier that database system is a challenge in Africa. So if it is a challenge, which means information and communication technology infrastructure has to be well organized in African countries. So if the soft infrastructure, because when you look at the World Bank Logistics Performance Index, one of the indicators we have there is also what infrastructure. So in this case now, apart from the hard infrastructure, which is also needed to support the soft infrastructure, that soft infrastructure, especially ICT, is key in using whether information technology or blockchain specifically to push, to drive our supply chain. So in that case, African countries, whether in a community like ECOWAS or African Union as a whole, has to take the issue of infrastructure very, very important. In fact, it is key because we cannot run a supply chain system without information and communication technology, because they are all linked, from inventory management to transportation to warehousing. They are all linked. So ICT is the key. Thank you.
Why did you choose to teach at Osiri University? That's to both of you guys. Go ladies first.
When I heard about the opportunity to teach at Osiri University, I jumped at it because I've always loved the educational sector. As a child, when I was growing up, after school, I would gather my twin sister and my friends to teach them mathematics. When I went for my National Youth Service Corporate Corp, it's a compulsory course that every graduate has to go for in Nigeria. I was posted to a school in Oyo State, in a rural setting. I was the only corper sent there to teach mathematics. I've always found myself teaching math. Even when I went to do my master's in UK, I had a part-time job at my school, University of East London, as a student ambassador. I was sent to a high school to support teaching services there, and I was sent there to teach maths. So I've always found myself in the teaching field. So it's something that I like, and the values of the vision of Osiri University is in line with my values. They support progress, hard work, indigenization. These are things I stand for. So that is why I jumped at the opportunity to teach at Osiri University.
Okay, for me, my interest to what got my interest, in university is their, let me call it their idiosyncrasy. That's the particular way of thinking, or trying to do things, the African way. Because I've noticed that we Africans, we've copied so much from the Western world to the extent that if we are asked where we are now to trace our origin, we find it difficult to trace our origin because we have copied and erased even the footpaths that can take us back. Let me say, okay, for instance, when I was growing up, I noticed that, my grandparents, older people then, love using bicycle. But it got to a stage, it became as if using bicycle is a taboo. When you talk about bicycle, it looks like it's the poorest people that use bicycle. But as somebody into logistics and transport and supply chain, even the Western world that we've copied still use bicycle. So why did we stop? Why did we throw away things? And you even notice that it's even more sustainable to use, especially to the environment. It's an active transportation. It helps you in exercising without knowing. So when I noticed that Osiri University, is coming from an African perspective, trying to let us know that it's not everything you jettison, it's not everything you throw away. Some things should still be of pride. Like when I got to when I got to Korea, one of the questions I was asking them, so what is the essence of using a chopstick to eat? When to me it's more convenient to use maybe a fork or a spoon. But you find out it's a cultural thing that when a Korean is doing it, he's so happy, But if it's our people, maybe they would have thrown it away. So Osiri University reminds me that I am coming from somewhere. I am not a black, I am an African. And there are certain ways we do our things, and we can't just throw everything away. So that's what caught my interest in Osiri University.
What database platform are you teaching from?
Okay, I'm using the SQL, that's a structured query language. It's a programming language, a computer language that enables you to be able to create tables and forms for you to put in your data. So I'm using SQL, structured query language.
The question that popped up is, what is your vision for Africa? We start with Mr. Chika.
Okay, my vision for Africa is to see Africa where the people we are running to their countries to learn, to study. The reverse will be the case, that in future they will still come back, to learn from us. Just like I mentioned about Mansa Musa, BBC, that's British Broadcasting Corporation historians, if you read part of his history, will tell you that, how he developed education, how he became very rich, even his journey to Mecca, they describe it as a city on a journey in the desert. That is the things he did. We are so remarkable that when they talk about him, you can feel that, you can be proud to be an African, even if you don't know him, you were not there. So my vision for Africa is to see people of other parts of the world coming to learn from Africa, and we stand with dignity and integrity. Thank you.
Okay, I look forward to an African continent where our potentials can be utilized effectively. We are blessed with so many natural resources, so many human resources. Most of our people are leaving the continent and going overseas, and they're exploiting them there. They are developing other continents. I look forward to an African where the people can be independent without depending on resources from the whites, from foreign countries, where we can be independent, we can use our resources very well, effectively for our own good.
No, it's specifically for Mr. Chika this time. He says, Mr. Chika, how do you envision Osiri University playing a role in the advancement of Pan-Africanism vis-a-vis AFCFTA? So could you shed more light on that?
Okay. Well, my vision of Osiri University as it relates to Africa FTTA is for Osiri University to make itself visible, to make university visible, for Osiri University to have personnel that are willing to carry on the cross, because at this early stage, I see myself as a volunteer, because it is difficult at this stage to achieve success, knowing that in Africa, it is always difficult to make impact, especially when you don't have listening government. So my vision is we will keep pushing. We'll get to the stage where, government of nations will call Osiri University for advice on how things should be done to bring about development, bearing in mind that Osiri University is Africa-centric. It has vision for Africa. It's not just like a conventional university, but a university that has Africa in mind for Africa to develop. Thank you.
Sorry, we lost the last thing you said. Could you repeat the last, I think the last sentence you said? It wasn't
okay.
clear.
My last sentence is for Osiri University to get to the stage where government of nations will call Osiri University, take advice from them, bearing in mind that Osiri University is Africa-centric. Osiri University is not like a conventional university. It's a university that has Africa in mind for Africa to develop. Thank you.
Fantastic. Fantastic. And that's where we're building this together. So hopefully we'll get there someday. There's another question on how should a student enroll at Osiri University? I think it's a why. Why should a student enroll at Osiri University? So Mr. Chika and Mrs. Choma, what do you think? Why should a student come to our university? Tell us.
I think students should come to Osiri, should enroll at Osiri University because of the vision of the university. They are targeted towards developing Africans and Africa as a continent. It's going to be beneficial to all of us in the long run. It's something that I'm sure that most courses are going to be developed in a way using case studies with what we can relate with in Africa here, not something that is from a foreign land, something that we can relate with here. So that will help understanding of the courses better. So that's why I think they should enroll at Osiri University.
Okay, for me, a student should enroll in Osiri University because Osiri University is a Pan-African university. It's an African-centric university. It's a university that I've seen that is coming up with concept of what are the things we have in Africa that we can still use to develop ourselves? What are the things that we have that we, everything about Africa is not bad the way, it is being projected. Once you mention Africa, even here I'm in Korea, once you mention Africa, people are looking around to see whether a lion is following you, whether a tiger is with you. They will ask you, when you're moving on the streets, do you touch tigers, So it's not like that. Even if we have them, there are resources that we can use to develop ourselves. And nobody who is championing this Osiri University. Yes, it may look funny because most times when we start our things in Africa, it doesn't look serious. But I tell you, this is the way to go. The resources we have are the things we can use to, develop ourselves. From European universities, I know we have different professionals. We will know how to use our cocoa very well, how to use our coffee, seeds very well, because we have to stop this thing of somebody will come, take our cuckoo, take to another country, refine it, return it to us, and sell at a very high exorbitant price. So I see Osiri University as a university that will make us understand that agriculture should not just be a way of life. It should be a business. When you see a farmer, you must not see a farmer that looks like somebody that is mentally derailed, or somebody that looks like a mad person. You should see a farmer that is well dressed, that is coming down from his SUV, putting his hand in his pocket, nodding his head when he's talking, shaking his car keys. So I see Osiri University from that perspective. So anybody that is thinking of Osiri University should think of Africa coming out as the best continent in the nearest future in the world. Thank you.
Thank you for that. We have 2 more questions. The first question is, what steps can we take to ensure that our courses are inclusive enough for special need learners, particularly students with hearing disability?
When you talk of inclusion, is actually a sustainability indicator, because if we are thinking of Africa, where we consider everybody as an African, as one of us, we must think of inclusivity. Because if you look at many African countries, even when infrastructures are designed, those in special needs are not taken care of. You get to the bus stops, those that are on wheelchair are not considered. You get to car parks, those on wheelchair, there is no space for them, not to talk of those that are visually impaired or have a hearing problem. At this point, I don't think I have a complete solution to that, knowing that Osiri University is starting, but I believe in Osiri University. I believe in the management. I know they are also working towards that. I alone cannot solve that without Osiri University. But I believe that once Osiri University rolls out any plan for that, I'm sure it will be very inclusive. And all of us as instructors, we don't have option than to, toe the path once it is ready. Thank you.
Okay. When designing my course, I made use of various resource and instructional materials. I had videos, I made sure I put down notes. Key information were written down. I made use of links, write-ups, so as long as you can read and write, even if you have some special needs, like you have the hearing disability, if you're unable to watch the video and hear what they're saying, you can read the notes and be able to gain an insight to what the lesson is all about. Or you can read the write-ups, or go click on a link and see the various, and this helps the lesson to flow. So without the videos, without being able to hear, you can be able to read and understand the lesson.
Thank you, Chioma and Chika. And just to add to that, we do have a disability function on the website, and we will ensure to make sure that we capture as much as we can right now for the new rollout of the course within that disability function. We are over time, but we have one last question, which is for Dr. Amugo. Are the other instructors like Mr. Chika and Mrs. Chioma?
Wow, that's a tall ask. Well, we're currently in a norming stage now for the instructors. But basically what we have done at Osiri University is that we have put together some clear guidelines to support, and they are not alone. Our instructors are not alone because they have the support of our OGAs. So they put together the courses, we give them some feedback. And the reason why we have to go through the rigors of looking through the course and providing all of this feedback is not to say you're not good at it. Basically, we have a standard, and we also are very keen about doing things the way, with the vision that we have as Osiri University. And I would say any instructor that has gone through our process would definitely come out as Mr. Chika and Mrs. Chioma. Although it takes a process, but we have got all that laid out.
And just to add to that, you are welcome to attend the other sessions that we have for the rest of the month and going forward. We will be inviting 2 other Malamis per week, and you can check them out and decide for yourself and see the caliber that we incorporate at Osiri University.
Just to say thank you to our guests today, Mr. Chika Wankwo and Mrs. Chioma, for your time and sharing with us a bit about how you went about your course design. So we do appreciate you coming on to our global dialogue today. And also my co-host, Dr. Paul Iselin, he made it easy for us to do this together. So just a shout out to you as well. And also to my amazing management team of Osiri University and to everyone who did key in back today for the Global Dialogue. Thank you so much for engaging with us. And we hope to see you back next week. It's been fantastic having this conversation today. Have a good day or evening, whatever it is. Take care. Ubuntu.
Ubuntu.